2,000 people were interviewed for Mintel's annual British lifestyle report into how the recession is affecting consumer behaviour. Researchers say that many people are cutting back on spending because of fear of economic uncertainty.
About 71% of us are cutting back on our expenditure at the moment, but funny enough, only 2 in 5, that's 40%, are actually being affected by this recession. So there's only 40% of us who perhaps have lost our jobs or have had a pay cut, pay freeze, having difficulty obtaining a mortgage. Now that means there's about a third of people who are cutting back their expenditure even though they don't actually need to cut back their expenditure. And we've got to look at what's actually driving them. And if they don't actually need to cut back their expenditure, the only thing that's driving them is a fear of what might happen in the recession. So really, people are cutting back not because they have to, but because they're basically preparing for what they fear might be the worst.
Although less than half of UK adults are affected by the recession, people have cut down on spending. 70% say they reduce spending on clothing, while 2/3 of those surveyed say they would cut back on restaurants and eating out. Other areas affected are pubs, clubs and entertainment outside of the home. Although London's West End Theatre seems to be bucking that trend and finding new ways to attract more visitors.
Well, the theatre actually has been doing well, and it's interesting because what the theatre in London and the West End has been very successful at doing is pulling people in through a variety of price promotions, very quick changing shows. But also don't forget that with the exchange rate the way it is, that the theatre is actually very good value for people coming from the Eurozone. So a ticket price which 2 years ago may have seemed very expensive to somebody who's converting euros to pounds these days is actually quite reasonable.
Another area of growth has been self-medication, with people spending money on over-the-counter drugs to overcome illness.
Bye-bye. People don't want to take time off work. It's a lot easier to go straight to your pharmacist and buy medication to treat yourself than it is to wait for a week to go to your GP. I mean, this is a trend that we've been seeing for a long time anyway. Don't forget that the government's quite keen on promoting self-medication because it removes people from having to wait for their GP. But also we've seen a lot of medications move from prescription to being available directly over the counter.
While consumer electronics are expected to hold up well because they're widely available and very affordable, overseas holidays will be affected.
What we found over the past few years is that, the advent of low-cost airlines meant that people were able to take a lot of cheap weekends away. And what we might end up finding is that people are taking fewer weekends away, but then just going on one main holiday a year. So what we're actually looking at is sort of a harking back to what we used to do.
While British consumers remain concerned about the state of the economy and how long the recession will last, they will continue to save rather than spend to ensure they have money should things worsen or their personal circumstances change.